Teaching number 160. The fruit of life, the sweet and pleasing fruit for the Spirit, is what I come to give you in my word. Eat and feel that you are sitting around the table of the Lord. O prophets of the third era! Prepare yourselves so that you see what only those indicated are given to contemplate. While many of those who make up these multitudes do not feel my presence in their hearts and spirits, you can testify of your visions, a testimony full of light and truth, both in content and in form. Truly I tell you that when one of you prepares, the Spirit penetrates into the light of spiritual life, where it is saturated and inspired to later be able to explain its vision to those who are waiting for its testimony. When this people becomes spiritualized and learns to feel my presence, they will no longer need the seer to give them proof that my manifestation has been true. Then I will be able to tell them, blessed are those who have believed without seeing. Delicate and serious is the responsibility of the seer, because in many cases, the faith of many weak hearts that seek evidence to believe depends on their word. Great must be the intuition that the seer develops to understand if what he sees in spirit is the result of a good preparation, or not, whether what he has contemplated must be witness to his brothers, or whether he must silence it. But how few of those who have received this gift have known how to cultivate it with the love, zeal and spirituality that it requires. The gift of clairvoyance is one of the most delicate, for what I tell you, that without spirituality the seer's gaze will never be able to penetrate into the spiritual region. Spirituality means elevation of feelings, purity in life, faith, love for others, charity, humility before God and deep respect for the gifts received. When you manage to achieve any of these virtues, you begin to penetrate with your spiritual gaze into the mansion of love and perfection. Thus, when you reach spirituality, from earth you will be able to say that you live, even if it is only in the moments of your prayer, in the spiritual valley, and at the same time you will receive the light that reveals to you facts that belong to the future, since for the Spirit, when it begins to rise, the future ceases to be a mystery. Yes, disciples. Only in human life, man ignores what will happen in the future, what will come tomorrow. He does not know his destiny, he does not know the path he will have to travel and what his end will be. Man cannot avoid the knowledge of all the tests that he will have to go through in his existence, and in my charity for him I have placed that veil of mystery between his present and his future, thus preventing his mind from wandering contemplating or knowing everything that will be lived and felt. On the other hand, the Spirit, a being clothed in strength and created for eternity, has in itself the faculty of knowing its future, the gift of knowing its destiny and the strength to understand and accept whatever trials await it, because it knows that at the end of the path, when it has been traveled in obedience to the law, it will have to reach the promised land, the paradise of the Spirit, which is the state of evolution, purity and perfection that it will finally have reached. For your spirituality, take me as an example, because for that I became a man at that time. Each one of my works remained as a lesson for men. But if my works were a teaching for humanity, you must imitate them, so that you achieve your evolution and the development of the gifts of the Spirit and of the human faculties and come closer and closer to the example that with my life, my works and words gave. Remember that I, as a man, always knew what my destiny was in the world. I knew the future and I gave testimony of it since my childhood. Through Jesus I spoke to my disciples about everything that would happen in the last days of my stay on earth, what my passion and my sacrifice would be like. Revealing to humanity the spiritual future of men, I anticipated what would happen in the nations, from those of those times to those that would exist in the time that I indicated for my new manifestation, which you call, the new coming. The spirituality of the body of Jesus allowed him to know his destiny, because my Spirit revealed it to him, and that same spirituality gave him the strength to accept the will of the Father with absolute love and humility. You cannot reach the degree of spirituality of your Master to be able to know what your destiny reserves for you, what the future has in store for you, but through your elevation I will make you sense the proximity of some event. That premonition, that clairvoyance about the future, that knowledge about your destiny, you will only achieve as your being, formed of body and spirit, rises along the path of spirituality, which I tell you again, is faith, it is purity, it is love of life, it is love and charity for your fellow men, it is humility and love before your Lord. To help you in the purification of your being, I am transmitting my thoughts so that you receive them converted into words through the understanding of my spokespersons, and points out to you a path of light. I bless the one who believes in this truth, as I also bless the one who doubts, because you are all my disciples, my very beloved children. My lessons through this communication will leave a trail of spirituality among the multitudes, which will remind my disciples that I was with them in a new form, to fulfill my promise to them. This is the new day that the larks have greeted with their trills, to announce to humanity the presence of the third era. My new manifestation was announced that it would coincide with the time of the struggle between the elevation of the spirit and the materiality of the envelope, of the war between truth and lies, of the battle between good and evil, between light and shadow. Behold your brothers, who are called mighty, they want to succeed by killing, they want to build their new kingdom on rubble, ruins, and corpses. I tell you that you are in time to sow the seed of light and peace, in the lands that you have fertilized with your love. That is why I seek the hearts of men, to save them from their tribulation and liberate them from their confusion, because I will triumph, giving you eternal life, in order to ultimately reign over the living. My spiritual hosts are in full struggle for the salvation of their brothers and sisters on earth, and I truly tell you that they will not return defeated, but on the contrary, they will arrive singing triumphant hymns. I come to redeem you through thought, without the need for my word to incarnate again to dwell among you. How strange is it that my spirit communicates with yours through thought? What's so strange about the shepherd looking for his lost sheep? Truly I tell you that since before you existed, I loved you, and knowing your destiny I had already thought of your salvation. That is why it was my will to coexist humanely with men, because with my love I wanted to teach you the path of light that would lead you one day to dwell in eternity, in my paternal bosom. On earth I manifested my divine power through Jesus, I resurrected Lazarus, I turned Magdalene, I restored light to the blind in body and spirit, I flooded hearts with faith and hope, I opened a new path for stagnant spirits, and finally, I watered the earth with my blood and gave you my body, giving proof that I was among you out of love, to give of myself everything to whom I love very much. Now, as at that time, I come to give myself in spirit to humanity, to save you by making you useful, because the seed that I have brought you to sow is the seed of usefulness that will make you stop being sterile from spirit and parasites of life. Will you still be slow to practice? Yes, my children, but what for you are years and centuries, for me are instants. I make use of time so that the fruit of love matures in minds, hearts and spirits. This is the time when the divine light will shine fully on my followers, who will manifest the gifts of the Spirit, demonstrating that they do not need earthly goods or material sciences to do charity and work wonders. They will cure in my name, they will heal the terminally ill, they will turn water into balm, and they will raise the dead from their beds. Your prayer will have the power to calm the winds, to appease the elements and combat epidemics and bad influences. The possessed will be freed from their obsessions, from their persecutors and oppressors, before the word, prayer and power of my new disciples. But truly I tell you that, when I see my people prepared, I will let them know the hour in which they must rise to the fight of light against darkness. And if you are not aware, think serenely that this is not the first time that man has repudiated my seed. From the earliest times, man has cut branches from the tree, to plant them according to his own will, later not knowing what their origin was, and I want you to know that in essence that tree is me, in my work on which man must exercise no influence, but only receive its benefits and propagate its seed. The fight of good against evil exists not only in your world, you can also find it in the spiritual valley. There are great battles and its influence reaches you, resulting in wars. Do not allow the spiritual world that has been protecting you, to be replaced by beings of little light. Watch over your steps and constantly invoke peace for this world in which you live. Pray and work. Spiritualize yourselves so that you can win all the tests. Remember the lessons given to you by that people called Israel who knew how to rise up to the call of their Lord. They were taken to the desert to learn a great lesson, they received the law there, they learned to communicate with their Father, they let the spiritual gifts awaken, they learned to obey the divine dictates, to be inspired by the law and to walk together, with harmony and fraternity. That obedience freed them from dangers and setbacks, their union made them strong before their adversaries, their order made their journey bearable and many times happy, their perseverance and faith led them to victory and to see the fulfillment of the divine promise. When the men of this time review the history of that people, They are amazed at so much faith of those men, and they are amazed at so many prodigies that the Lord placed on their path. When I hear that your chest sighs before that faith and spirituality, I tell you that it is in man that those prodigies return. When I see them prepared, I will manifest myself in them. Now it is up to all of you who are already prepared and awake, to announce the liberation of the world. Remember that Elijah, the one promised for this time, is preparing everything to rescue the nations of the earth, enslaved by materialism, from Pharaoh's rule, as Moses did in Egypt with the tribes of Israel at that time. Tell your brothers that Elijah has already manifested himself through human understanding, that his presence has been in spirit, and that he will continue to illuminate the path for all the peoples who arrive from now on. Your pastor's mission is to restore all beings to their true path, whether it be spiritual, moral or material, for which I tell you that the nations that receive the call of their Lord will be blessed, through Elijah, because they will remain united by the law of justice and love, which will bring them peace as the fruit of their understanding in their fraternity. Thus united, they will be taken to the field of struggle where they will fight against evil, materialism and lies. In this struggle, the men of this time will see the new miracles and will understand the spiritual meaning of life, the one that speaks to them of immortality and peace. They will stop killing each other, recognizing that what they must destroy is their ignorance, their selfishness and insane passions, from which their setbacks and miseries, both material and spiritual, have come. Where does idolatry and religious fanaticism come from, if not from ignorance of the laws that govern the spirit? What is the cause of the wars that sow confusion among peoples, destroying their men, if not excessive greed or uncontrollable hatred? Conclude with the understanding that the final combat will not be of brothers against their own brothers, but of good against evil. I will put my sword in the right hand of man, so that he defeats himself and reaches the gates of the promised land, but do not wait for that land to be a certain country that you receive as an inheritance, because you will find this new promised land within your spirit. In the midst of peace, you will contemplate the transformation of your world, previously uncertain, hostile and miserable, into a prodigal and welcoming land. You will live an existence where there is spirituality, justice and love. This will bring progress to men, as a result of having fed on true knowledge. Human life will be higher, and when my spirit manifests itself among the prepared men of the future, a time of revelations will come in all orders, and the prodigies and wonders, which past generations prophesied to you, will be fulfilled. When the world reaches its new liberation and, guided by the light of Elijah, penetrates into that just and good life, you will have here on earth a reflection of the spiritual life, which awaits you beyond this life to enjoy eternally the peace and light of your Father. But if you ask yourselves, how will all the nations unite in a single people, as were those tribes that made up the people of Israel? I say to you, do not fear, because once they are all taken to the desert, the trials will unite them, and when this is done, a new manna will descend from heaven to each one of the needy hearts. Enjoy my presence, beloved people, celebrate in your heart, vibrate with joy, because at last you have seen this day of the Lord arrive. You feared that this day would come because you still thought like the ancients. You believed that the heart of your father was vengeful, that he held a grudge for the offenses received, and that therefore he would bring the sickle prepared, the whip and the cup of bitterness, to exert a revenge on those who had offended him so much and so repeatedly. But great has been your surprise to verify that in the Spirit of God there can be no anger, nor fury, nor abhorrence, and that if the world weeps and laments as never before, it is not because its Father has given it that fruit to eat, nor to drink from that chalice, but it is because it is the harvest that humanity is reaping through its works. Certainly all the calamities that have been unleashed at this time were announced to you, but because they were announced to you, do not think that your Lord has brought them to you as a punishment. On the contrary, at all times I have warned you against evil, against temptations, and I have helped you get up from your falls. Besides, I have placed within your reach all the means that are necessary for you to be able to save yourselves. But you must also recognize that you have always been deaf and unbelieving to my calls. Today I am telling you, take my work as if it were an ark and enter it so that you may be saved from the storms that are coming. But you will see how many are not going to want to believe my warning, and are not going to prepare, and when the test comes and the whipping, then they will begin to say that I have taken revenge on them and that I have punished them. Hear my word, O people, and savor its sweetness. Open your heart and you will feel the visit of your Father. Recognize spiritually before me, and you will feel a peace that will make you want to never lose. How is it possible that you were waiting for me, if you were full of violence and if my coming has caused you terror instead of infinite joy? I tell you again that you should fear nothing from me, instead, from yourselves, all evils can befall you. Beware, then, of the restitution you may bring upon yourselves because of your faults. Indeed I am zealous, inexorable, but fair, straight and pure. If you sprang clean from me, I think it is fair that you should return in that same form. I have taught you that what is stained cannot reach me, before it must be purified, and that is what is happening in the world at this time. In Jesus, the world looked at its humanized God, from him men only received lessons of love, teachings of infinite wisdom, proofs of perfect justice, but never a word of violence, an act or a demonstration of rancor. Instead, look how he was offended and mocked. He had authority and all power in his hand, which the entire world does not have, but it was necessary for the world to know its Father in his true essence, justice and charity. In Jesus, the world saw a Father who gives everything for his children, asking nothing for himself in return. A Father who forgives with infinite love the worst offenses, without ever taking revenge, and a Father who, before taking the lives of his children who offend him, forgives them, tracing with his blood the path of their spiritual redemption. How could it be possible that at this time when I manifest myself to men in spirit, I would come to erase from their hearts the concept they have of the loving and just Father, which they have formed of me through their life on earth? You must prepare yourselves, because I bring justice for all. Prepare yourselves, because the majesty with which I present myself should not cause fear in your hearts, but should be a reason for joy and happiness. Watch and pray, so that in the coming battle, you may be by my side. Behold how my light comes to dispel the darkness of your world. Certainly I come to fight men, but only to eradicate all the evil that is encouraged in their hearts. I will put the light and strength of my love in those who faithfully follow me, and then they will say, "Let's go look for the dragon that lies in wait for us, the beast that induces us to sin and offend the Lord." They will look for it in the seas, in the desert, in the mountains and in the jungles, in the invisible, and they will not find it, because it lives in the hearts of men, where it was begotten and there it has grown, until reaching to dominate the earth. When the reflections of my sword of light wounds the heart of every man, the force that comes from evil will weaken until it dies. Then you will say, "Lord, with the divine force of your charity I have defeated the dragon, the one who I believed that it lurked from the invisible, without thinking that it was actually inside my heart." When wisdom shines in all men, who will dare to turn good to evil? Who will give the eternal for the temporary? No one, truly I tell you, because you will all be strong in divine wisdom. Sin proceeds from ignorance and weakness. That is why I am inviting you to enter my divine lecture, so that you may truly be children of the light. A new era has opened before humanity, while the world sleeps without realizing the light that is illuminating it. In the spiritual there is joy and celebration. On all spirits and on all flesh, my spirit has been poured out at this time. The new seed of Abraham is scattered, and it is necessary to gather them to give them my new spiritual lesson. Wars, destruction, chaos, and death have not been enough to make humanity understand that my justice has descended to call it to the path of my law. The emissaries that I have sent sleep, and in the world they only go in pursuit of comforts, well-being and earthly possessions. They have hidden the ideal of spiritual eternity. The voice of conscience has spoken to you, and its cry has been lost in the materialism of the human mind and heart. I have allowed all the pain, bitterness, hatred and impiety to overflow, but at the same time I have reminded men of my law of love and justice, making them recognize that in a time like this my coming was predicted. A humble corner of the earth was chosen by me for my manifestation. Humble men and women were chosen at this time to serve me as a medium for my communication and to have the joy of being the ones who heard my divine words for the first time in this third era. Patiently and by virtue of the essence of this word and the wonders I have done among my children, that first group became a multitude and later a people. My word has fought to separate these hearts from material complications, from selfishness and hypocrisy, also from vices and ignorance. That is the only cross that I have placed on their shoulders, but those are the first steps. I have told this people that the day will come when with their eyes, with their words or with their thoughts, they will carry out surprising works. When will these events be? When there is spirituality among you. The unified thoughts of a group will be able to beat down evil influences and knock idols off their pedestals. Today you still feel shaken under the influence of war, before the fury of the elements, and you fear the judgment of men. It is that you still feel small and clumsy due to the lack of development of your gifts. Blessed is the one who prepares himself, because being inside this battle, he will be the strong soldier who will be victorious in the end. What do you think are the forces that will be opposed? You answer me with human reasoning. I tell you that it will be the forces of good and evil that have to face each other in the decisive struggle. Which of these forces do you think will win? You tell me, undoubtedly the force of good, Master. And truly good will overcome evil in you, when you love one another. I taught you at that time to overcome the temptations of the world and death, making love and truth triumphant. Now I want you to imitate me, to cast out passions from your heart, so that there, within you, the peace of the divine Spirit resides, and you invite me to have my sanctuary within you. But when you have overcome evil, you will be surprised to understand that you had formed the temptation with your passions, tendencies, weaknesses, and sins, and that when you overcame them, you killed that dominant influence within you. Make merits to achieve peace, people, but do not ask me for that peace, without first having fought to deserve it. Times have passed, your spirit has grown, and it will have to carve out whatever he longs for and needs. His childhood, that age in which the father had to provide everything for his little ones, has passed. I am going to prove to humanity that its problems will not be solved by force, and that as long as it makes use of destructive and murderous weapons, no matter how terrible and strong they may seem, they will not be able to make peace among men. On the contrary, they will result in greater hatred and desire for revenge. Only conscience, reason, and feelings of charity can be the foundations on which the era of peace is based, but for that light to shine within men, it is necessary that they first drink to the last drop of the chalice of bitterness. Do not be intimidated, disciples, when you hear rumors of war, when you see hunger and misery arrive and the strangest epidemics appear. In the bottom of your heart you will have the certainty that when these tests come, humanity will be drinking the residue of the chalice of bitterness. You will not remain inactive or indifferent in that hour. On the contrary, you will give yourselves to your mission, bringing light to the mind of the confused and balm to the sick. Watch and pray, people, so that the influences of that force of evil in which human passions vibrate and disturbed spirits stir, do not dim the light that I have brought to your understanding. My peace be with you.